management accounting adalah berkenaan dengan environmental cost management. Okay, so what is the environmental cost? What category in the environmental cost management? Okay, so kita tengok dari segi dia punya benefit atau eco-efficiency lah. So eco-efficiency ni akan relate dengan environmental lah. So kalau kita tengok most of the country lah memang titik beratkan pasal eco-efficiency ataupun ecosystem right now. Untuk protect the environmental lah. So sama juga dengan accounting. So we have the environmental cost. I mean, apa cost yang terlibat bila kita nak protect the environment lah. Okay, so what is the benefit of eco-efficiency? Okay, the eco-efficiency is the environmental management view that organisation can produce more useful goods and service while simultaneously reducing negative environmental impacts. Ini maksud dia lah, apa benefit dia bila eco-efficient ni. Okay, so and then dia kata is supportive of sustainable developments, the developments that meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs nah. Ni maksud dia untuk sustainable. That mean kita development dan juga sustainable dalam eco-efficient. And then satu lagi adalah that mean kata environmental cost can be significant percentage of the total cost and should be reported as separate classification. Ya.
Akak ni.
Enggak. Tak ingat dah. Sekejap Ada.
Tak dapat ambil dok bagi tanya sebab dari situ lama dah.
Ingat dah. Macam lagi ni.
Dah akak ada dah akak pulang balik. Akak dok ambil lagi kot.
Nak tengok dia kalau tak. Tak balik dah. Kelas yang ni kejap Ada kelas ke? So dia kata environmental report ni adalah sebahagian daripada total operating cost lah. Okay, and normally they reported as separate classifications so manager can assess their impact on firm profitability. So dalam operating cost, company operating cost akan ada environmental cost. Okay, dia akan separate difference. That means sama juga contohnya salary expenses, rent expenses, and satu lagi lah environmental cost. Okay, that means cost ni juga akan dijadikan sebagai product cost. Okay, so and dia akan report as a separate classification so manager can assess their impact on firm profitability. So dia report separate ni, then that mean kita boleh tahulah how much the company spend on the environmental. So boleh tahu banyak mana company ni spend expenses on to protect the environmental ataupun untuk overcome the product tu daripada effect the environmental dan juga untuk untuk prevent pengeluaran dia. Contohnya kalau ada waste ke apa, banyak mana cost yang diperlukan untuk dia dispose the waste ataupun toxic apa-apalah. Okay, itu maksud dia cost. Nah, cost normally, cost environmental sikit sekali. Sebab banyak sangat badan-badan memang berat sangat. Kalau kilang ke nak beroperasi apapun pengeluaran, mestilah tak effect kepada environmental. Okey, nah contohnya kalau nak dispose waste, nak buang ataupun nak dispose, bila ada pengeluaran dia akan ada waste. Contohnya bahan kimia, toksik, radioaktif, apa-apa yang melakukan. So macam mana nak dispose dia tu? Nah, okey. Macam mana nak hapuskan dia ataupun maybe nak tukarkan dia jadi benda lain. Itu maksud dia nah. That mean cost tu bukan satu cost yang kecil sebenarnya nah. Dan satu lagi sistem dia pula kena pastikan maksud dia adalah environmental friendly. Okay. Dia tak effect kepada environmental. Okay. Okay, so dia kata environmental quality cost model, environmental cost are cost incurred because of poor environmental quality exist or because of poor environmental quality may exist. So environmental cost ni adalah sebahagian daripada quality cost juga. Sebab nanti kita pada topik ni kita ada quality cost. So quality cost ni sebahagian ni adalah daripada environmental juga. Masuk. Okay. Ada dia ada 4 kategori. So dalam environmental cost ni dia have the 4 kategori. Yang pertama adalah prevention cost. So kita kena tahu cost yang terlibat tu which under category. So bila buat report, So kita boleh classify lah. Okay, cost ni contohnya bawah kategori apa. Okay, tu adalah dari segi reporting. So satu adalah prevention cost. Ada soalan ke? Pertama adalah prevention cost. Okay, cost yang merupakan prevention adalah incurred to prevent damage to the environment such as the production of contaminants. Example include designing process and product to reduce the contaminants. Okay, prevention cost ni maksud dia sebelum kita buat pengeluaran, okay, kita kena ada something lah untuk protect the process ni. Contohnya kita design machinery, design a new machinery, contohnya kita upgrade the machinery. Okay, plant machinery maksud dia bila proses tu tak maksud dia bila dia proses barang tu dia bila toksik yang keluar tu tak akan efek. Tu maksud dia. Contohnya beli apa lagi? Beli sistem, okay? Ataupun dia bagi training ke staff. Ni contohnya under prevention cost lah. Kan? Okay, ada satu lagi detection cost. Okay, detection cost to defect if the firm is compliant with an environmental standard. Environmental standard procedure contohnya government regulation, voluntary standard developed by the International Standard Organization, environmental policy developed by the management. Okay, ni adalah detection. Detection ni more kepada law and regulation. Contohnya kita ni ikut standard dah, kita ada licensing dah. Contohnya we pay the license, contohnya kita masuk compliant apa-apa. So tu adalah cost yang terlibat bawah detection cost. Okay, ni dalam ni juga akan ada contohnya risk management and so on lah. So semua-semua tu kena bayar lah. Contohnya kita ada dapatkan standard, kita beli standard apa, kita bayar. That mean kita tu maksud kita dah protect dah, ataupun NIOSH ataupun DOSH yang kita ikuti and so on, ataupun kita bagi training, tu melibatkan detection cost, kita detect cost. Okay, yang ketiga adalah internal failure cost. Okay, internal failure cost, dikata cost incurred after contaminants are produced but retreating and deposit of toxic material and recycling scrap. Internal failure ni maksud dia bila kita buat pengeluaran, so apa cost yang terlibat? Contohnya kita nak dispose toxic, tu bawah internal failure cost lah. Ataupun kita nak recycle balik scrap kita tu. Nak recycle balik scrap tu pun akan incurred cost. Tu bawah internal failure cost. Okay, tu contoh-contoh dia lah, banyak lagi sebenarnya. Okay, yang keempat adalah environmental external failure cost. Yang ni melibatkan internal, that means cost dalaman sahaja. Yang ni melibatkan external failure. Okay, external failure ni yang contohnya dia kata after contaminants are introduced into environments, realized external failure costs are external costs that firm have to pay. Okay, dia kata unrealized external cost or society cost or external cost by the firm but paid for by society. Okay, contohnya external failure ni contohnya dia buanglah bahan toksik tu dalam sungai contohnya kan. So that mean dia kena bersih balik sungai tu ataupun dia bagi pampasan kepada society atau apa-apalah, tu pun melibatkan external cost. Okey, itu contoh-contoh dia lah. Dia bersih balik kawasan ataupun kena denda ke ataupun dia bagi pampasan kepada siapa yang kena toksik kan, banyak berlaku dekat Malaysia kan. Contohnya it happen last year in Johor dan juga it happen tu dekat Pahang. Banyaklah kes-kesnya yang sebabkan environmental, that mean company tu kena bayar kepada society. Okey, dan juga company tu kena bersih balik kawasan yang damage tu. Itulah contohnya disebabkan oleh radioaktif. Contoh dekat Pahang tu disebabkan oleh radioaktif. So bahan buangan tu ada sisa radioaktif. So akan efek kepada ekosistem. So dia kena bersihkan balik kawasan tu. Okey, contohnya kalau company tu keluarkan asap yang warna hitam. So dia kena make sure dia akan efek kepada environment dan juga manusia kan, human. So macam mana cara dia nak bagi pampasan, nak repair balik tu. Tu akan melibatkan cost. Cost tu dipanggil external failure cost. Okey. Boleh tak setakat ni? Tu adalah jenis-jenis environmental cost. Dia ada 4 kategori. 4 kategori sama juga dengan cost yang nanti kita akan belajar untuk next chapter. Okay, so they have the environmental report. Okay, so right now as long as we know that dalam annual report. Okay, kalau you biasa buka annual report, okay, sekarang ni more kepada integrated reporting kan. Oh kan, integrated reporting. Pernah dengar tak integrated reporting? Pernah dengar tak integrated reporting?
Yang CSR lah.
CSR tu salah satulah. So integrated reporting ni dalam annual report adalah combination antara financial information dan juga non-financial information. Kan sekarang ni kan orang nak lebih kepada sustainability, transparent kan. Betul tak? So kena bagilah report-report yang selain pada financial report. Kalau zaman dulu 10 years ago, kalau you tengok annual report more kepada financial data, income statement, balance sheet and cash flow and the notes of the accounts kan, and then declaration of the director, board of director and so on lah. Tapi sekarang ni the annual report more kepada ada report pasal risk management, environmental report, dia ada juga sustainability report, and dia ada juga CSR. So benda-benda tu dia nak attract the public ataupun the stakeholder. Supaya that means dia bagi sumbangan yang besar, that means akan bagi the goodwill of the company dia lah, the name of the company. Okay, so orang lumba-lumba lah sekarang ni, terutamanya ke atas environmental ni. Dulu CSR kan famous kan, sekarang ni mau kepada environmental. Okay, so macam mana dia buat tu So dia kena bagi tahu, okay, produk yang dia buat ni adalah that mean bagus, maksud dia tak effect kepada environment kan. Kalau dulu kan you tengok straw sekarang ni lah, campaign, betul tak? Campaign sekarang ni kan, dulu orang guna straw daripada plastik, betul tak? Tapi if plastik tu akan effect kepada environment. Nak hapus plastik tu is not easy lah. Dia akan ambil masa tahun. So sekarang ni straw tu dah ditukar kepada apa dia? Daripada kertas kan, maksud dia friendly ekosistem kan. Maksud dia tukar lah. Tu maksud dia sekarang ni orang dah environmental issue dah sekarang ni lah. Tu maksud dia, so sama lah juga. So sekarang ni financial report list contohnya ada environmental benefit. Kalau setengah company tu dia disclose pula kepada public, that mean dari segi environmental ni apa yang company dia tu buat. Contohnya berapa kos yang terlibat, apa yang dia sedang buat. So biasanya dia akan report juga dalam annual report. Okay, ataupun mana-mana news lah. So dia akan beritahu lah. Okay, so tu maksud dia integrated reporting. Okay, walaupun sekarang ni tak wajib lagi, tapi most of the company, kalau big company tu dia dah start dah disclose all the environmental report. Okay, boleh nah? So dia kata an environmental financial report list environmental benefits such as income for recycling as well as environmental cost. Okay, selain daripada environmental cost yang effect, ada juga income daripada environmental. Okay, contohnya contoh kami dululah masa saya kerja kilang dulu. Okey, kerja kilang lah. Okey, ada juga bahan-bahan yang kita tak buang directly. Okey, kita tak buang directly, tapi kita jual dia as a others income. Contohnya dulu yang kami buat contohnya ialah strapping steel dan juga pellet. Pernah dengar tak? The pellet dan juga strapping steel. Pellet kenal tak pellet? Bila kita order kargo kan, yang kayu letak tu. Kayu yang letak
Kayu pellet.
Ya, kayu pellet tu. Satu lagi strapping steel. Kalau kargo besar-besar tu, you tak ikat dengan plastik, dia ikat dengan besi. Dia contohnya ada besi, panggil strapping steel, mana cerita Dia tali tapi buat daripada besi. Itulah. Okey, bila kita beli, kita order ataupun kita import bahan mentah mana-mana, kalau dalam bentuk kuantiti yang besar, so dia akan ikat dengan strapping steel. Normally strapping steel tu biasanya orang buang je lah, orang dispose lah. Tapi dia besi kan, so yang waste tu kita jual kepada company-company yang amalkan yang recycle tu kan, banyak company kan, dia buka kilang yang dia recycle balik. Waste tu, so kita jual lah strapping steel tu dan juga pellet kepada company berkenaan, so terdapatlah others income. Banyak jugalah ada income sebulan tu. Tak kira lah kayu pellet dia buat apa lah, tapi maksud dia tu adalah kita panggil environmental benefit ataupun revenue ataupun others income. Okay, so ikutlah, tapi yang strapping steel tu kita jual dekat company tu, maksud dia lebur balik besi tu jadi apa tak tahulah, as long as kita dah dispose dah benda tu. Kalau tidak, kalau nak buang dalam bako sampah ke apa tu jadi satu isu pula lah, sebab kuantiti tu bukan kuantiti yang sedikit. Okay, tu contoh-contoh dia nah. So contoh-contoh banyak jugalah scrap nah. Kalau you pergi ni, kalau yang kilang kelapa sawit, siapa pernah pergi kilang kelapa sawit tahu kilang kelapa sawit kan? Dia punya sabuk kelapa sawit tu akan jadi waste, betul tak? Akan jadi waste lah kan, kelapa sawit proses dia akan ambil minyak, betul tak? So the waste dia tu, contohnya sabuk kelapa sawit tu dia akan jual kepada nursery dia akan ambil tu sebagai baja ataupun dia akan campur dengan tanah untuk pokok and so on. Tu pun boleh jadi income juga. Kalau you pergilah, banyak benda jugalah yang waste tu boleh jadikan sebagai benefit ataupun revenue kepada company. Okay, alright. So, apa lagi? So, untuk reducing environmental cost, dulu. Dia tak nak lah, maksud dia bila dah failure tu berlaku baru kita nak overcome kan. So dia start with the prevention dululah. So dia tukar mesin, dia tukar sistem. This is the consistent with the concept that prevention is cheaper rather than cure. What's this?
Tu dapat surat awal-awal ni.
Tak tahu. Okay, so maksud dia, so normally they start with the prevention and detection activity lah. So dia akan bagi training, dia ubah suara sistem ataupun the environment dalam factory dia tu ataupun the raw material yang digunakan untuk produk tu, okay. Maksud dia akan effect akan effect ke tidak the ekosistem itulah apa yang company buat Contoh-contoh je lah. Okay, so assigning environmental cost. Macam mana nak assign environmental cost ni? Okay, dia kata environmental cost can be assigned using either of the following. Okay, satu yang full private costing, the assignment of only private environmental cost to the product, and satu lagi lah full environmental costing. That means the assignment all of environmental cost both private and society to product. Ni macam mana orang nak assign cost to the product. So
Madam,
ya.
tak nampak slide.
Slide lah, hilang slide lah.
Oh, tutup.
Tutup Okey, saya share balik
Okay.
Madam, nanti yang slide ni semua dekat klip ada je kan, Madam?
Ada. Nak share tak boleh ni warna ni.
Okay, baik.
Nampak tak lagi ni?
Tak.
Tak nampak juga?
Dia tak keluar apa-apa pun.
Ke? So, apa dah jadi gini Okey, so saya cancel dulu Macam mana nak jadi ni? Okey, saya keluar, saya masuk balik Okay, nampak tak lagi?
Nampak dah madam.
Dah tahu dah nah. Webex sekali-sekala dia tu juga nah. Dia bermasalah lah juga nak macam mana kelas macam ni dah. Kita sambung duk mana dah tadi? Okay, ni assign environmental cost. Okay. Okay, assign raw material cost. Okay, so dia ada dua lah bentuk macam mana dia nak assign cost to the product lah. Okay, depend pada company lah ataupun production. Okay, in addition, environmental cost can be assigned using either of the following ataupun dia boleh sama ada functional based environmental cost assignment. That means environmental costs are assigned to the individual product, the unit level driver, such as direct labor, hours and machine. Hour ni macam proses costing lah. So dia assign ni as a manufacturing overhead lah. A function based cost assignment can produce distorted is the product diversity. Ni contohnya diguna based on kepada cost driver untuk dia assign cost, environmental cost to the product tu. And satu lagi dia guna kaedah activity based environmental cost assignment. Okay, cost assigned to environmental activity rate are calculated and then the rates are used to assign environmental cost to the product. Yang kedua yang contohnya activity based costing tu. Dia guna activity based costing, dia cari environmental activity tu, contohnya 4 activity tadi. Okay, dia cari rate, lepas tu dia assign to the product. Nah, dia lebih macam activity based costing yang ni. Okay, yang pertama tu yang diguna single cost driver saja. Okay, ni contoh lah macam mana dia nak trace environmental cost to the product. Okay. Dan yang kedua adalah strategi based environmental reporting, responsible accounting. So environmental cost ni adalah bawah responsible accounting. Kita panggil responsibility accounting. Okay, so the continuous improvement framework for environmental control can be achieved by adding a fixed perspective and environmental perspective to the balance scorecard framework. Nah, ni apalah objektif dalam responsibility accounting. Okay, contohnya objektif dia lah nak minimize the use of raw or the virgin material kan, minimize the use of the hazardous material. Ni contoh objektif dia lah. Minimize energy requirement for production and use of the product, minimize the release of the solid, liquid and the gas residue, maximize opportunity to recycle. Ni adalah objektif dalam environmental. Of course lah kan, nak kurangkan guna bahan asli kan, bahan membahaya, betul tak? Ni contoh-contoh dia lah. Ataupun nak kurangkan release solid, liquid and the gas. Okay, nak kurangkan, maksud dia bahan-bahan toksik tu nak kurangkan macam mana. So macam-macam lah orang buat sekarang. And maximize opportunity to recycle. Satu lagi dia nak maximize, maksud dia produk yang dikeluarkan tu boleh recycle balik. Okay, yang tu contoh-contoh dia lah. Okay. Alright, ni contohnya apa yang dia orang buat sekarang lah. Dan satu lagi dia kata environmental based activity based environmental costing can be used to identify environmental cost, product, costing and classified lah. Dia classified activity tu sama ada non-value added ataupun value added activity. Okay, so bila dah tahu which one the activity is value added and value added, so dia boleh remove lah mana satu lah. Yang non-value added tu dia boleh remove. Okay, so ni apalah yang dibuat lah. Okay, and then saya nak bagi tahu, nak tunjuk contoh one of the report lah. Contoh report yang environmental report. Okay, cara dia nak kira environmental cost report. Nampak tak? Nampak tak report ni?
Nampak.
Contoh dia buat environmental cost report, contohnya nama company, environmental cost report untuk year end bila-bila kan. Okay, so dia separate ni. Dia separate for the category. For the category environmental cost, contohnya prevention. Okay, so prevention, contohnya training on environmental issue, training cost. So berapa dia letak cost dia nah. Environmental protection cost, contohnya depreciation, repair, maintenance, environmental protection equipment. Ni kalau diguna machine equipment ni. Okay, so termasuklah dia punya depreciation expense cost. Masuk juga dekat di bawah prevention. Contohnya kalau kilang-kilang yang guna machinery yang canggih-canggih kan untuk protect the environment, so dikira bawah prevention. Okay, contohnya research and development, okay, related to environmental issue. Okay, recycling and reuse activity including container, okay, recycling balik ataupun reuse balik, apa-apa yang ada lah. Prevention cost contohnya specialized clothing provided to employees, contohnya dia bagi uniform maksud dia untuk prevention, tu pun masuk bawah prevention cost. Okay, eco-friendly packaging and distribution activity. Contohnya eco-friendly packaging and distribution activity. Contoh dia apa? Eco-friendly packaging. Apa dia contohnya? Dia guna apa contohnya? Biasa pun tak. Nah, sekarang ni diguna apa?
Recycle.
Nak recycle kan sekarang ni, maksud dia sekarang ni you nampak tak yang polystyrene kan jarang digunakan sekarang kan. Polystyrene tu harga murah. Nah, jadi untuk prevent dia polystyrene tu dia akan bagi satu yang tak baik kepada environment lah. So mostly dia tak, sekarang ni ramai orang tak guna polystyrene dah. Nah, banyakkannya orang guna yang bentuk plastik ataupun kertas nah. Box. Kalau negara Mak Saleh tu plastik dah tak guna sangat dah. Sekarang ni guna kepada bentuk kertas, box, tapi kos dia tinggi sikit lah. Kita maksud dia untuk prevention. Okay, contohnya straw. Dulu guna plastik kan kos dia murah, sekarang ni dah guna kertas mahal sikit lah. Ada setengah tu guna metals lah, besi, metals untuk gantikan straw plastik tu. Jadi kos dia pun tinggi. Tu pun bawa prevention. Okay, apa lagi? Apa lagi contohnya? Tak tahu dah nak recall. Okay, so contohnya minimize waste and maximize recyclability nah. So employees recommendation for environmental benefit suggestion. So ni adalah bawah cost prevention. Okay nah. And then appraiser, okay, contohnya monitoring, inspecting, testing environment protection equipment. So environmental compliant employees, protection process verification. Ni adalah bawah appraiser ataupun di detection tadi. Okay nah, contohnya dapat license, compliant ke tidak, nah kita nak testing the product kita tu macam mana. Okay nah. And then internal failure, okay ni bawah non-compliant cost. Okay, internal failure contohnya, okay, storing, disposal or treating waste. Contohnya macam mana dia nak treating waste tu. Contohnya hazardous waste, contohnya pada hazardous tu, contoh radioaktif, macam mana nak proses balik radioaktif tu supaya benda tu tak jadi bahan yang berbahaya. Okay, so macam mana dia buat? Tu akan melibatkan cost lah. So cost of insurance related to the potential environment hazard, abatement cost for contained environment hazard, reward cost for product not meeting environment standard. Contohnya produk yang tak meeting environmental standard diproses balik. Bila proses balik akan menyebabkan cost, dan juga others internal failure cost. Tu bawah internal failure nah. Internal failure ni maksud dia apa yang dia buat ke atas produk yang dikeluarkan tu ataupun pengeluaran yang dibuat tu. Okey nah. Tu internal failure. Okey, kalau external failure pula, contohnya recall from environmental damaging product, contohnya produk yang tak bagus kepada environment bila dah ada kat pasaran, dia ambil balik. Kan benda ni banyak berlaku sekarang kan, contohnya yang kosmetik. Kosmetik, okey, siapa pakai yang kosmetik tu, contohnya tak safe, so government suruh panggil balik, maksud dia ambil balik daripada market. Tu akan melibatkan cost lah. Okay, maksud dia benda tu tak boleh dijual. Tak boleh dijual, so cost lah kan. Okay, and then fine, penalty and insurance increase for non-compliant for environmental regulation. Contohnya kalau kena denda, penalties. Okay, contohnya kita terpaksa increase the insurance. Tu melibatkan external failure. Benda ni pun banyak berlaku juga ni. And then clean out of environmental problem. Kita bersih kawasan environmental problem tu. Contohnya kita buang toksik dalam sungai, kan? So kita kena bersih balik sungai tu. So melibatkan cost juga tu. Bawa external failure. And then actual legal and litigation cost relate to the environmental problem. So apa-apa menyebabkan legal. Then land or plant asset impairment caused by environmental degradations, crisis management and complaint handling related to environment problem. Okay, semua ni adalah bawa external failure. Okay, nah. Boleh? Okay, so bila kita dapat total environmental cost ni daripada empat kategori, and then in case kita ada revenue, so kita minus dengan revenue, kita akan dapatlah net environmental cost. Okay, kalau ada revenue lah, revenue ni maksud dia kalau ada scrap kita jual balik, nah, kalau ada apa-apa that mean ada benefits lah, contohnya insurance benefits, nah, ataupun ada subsidize from the government. Okay, so maksud dia tu adalah benefit. So tolak balik daripada total cost. So kita akan dapat net environmental cost. Okay, tu maksud dia nah. So ni adalah contoh-contoh environmental cost yang berlaku lah. Okay, so boleh? So saya akan tunjuk satu lagi annual report. Ni annual report ni. Ni mana annual report? Hilang tu annual report. Sekejap Okey. Ni adalah annual report. Nampak tak ni?
Nampak.
Nampak? Ni
Ada.
nampak tak? Ni contoh annual report.
Nampak.
Nampak Ni contoh annual report Saindabi. Okey, ni adalah contoh yang dia disclose pasal environmental impact. Dia impact dia lah. So Saindabi kan dia lemuk kepada buat apa ni, pump oil kan. Tak kira lah dekat Indonesia kan. Okey. So ni adalah contoh environmental impact dia. So dia bagi tahulah. So banyak mana boiler dia, apa agriculture machinery dia. Okey. Pasal environmental risk nah. Okey. And then dia ceritalah. And then performance dia dari segi apa damage dia, carbon energy dia. Nah, dia cerita pasal ni lah, pasal berkenaan dengan environmental dia. Okey, ke atas produk ataupun pengeluaran dia. Dia disclose everything ni. Dia disclose. Okey. Dan apa lagi dia tunjuk ni? Breakdown of emission resources in 2017. Banyak mana guna electricity, fertilizer. Ni semua dia disclose belaka kan? Okay. So dia energy dia consume banyak mana kan? So nanti kita akan compare lah between year by year. Okay, semua tu dia close dalam annual report. Ini contoh dia, ni contoh Saindabi. So you boleh tengok lagi daripada others annual report yang daripada company lain lah. Okay nah. Contohnya breakdown dia macam mana, okay. Contohnya dia tunjuk, kalau you tengok lah kan, ada setengah tu tunjuk kilang dia macam mana, okay. So contohnya dia buat environmental management, contohnya dekat Malaysia. Malaysia pun dia bagi tahu juga apa yang dia buat dekat Malaysia. Okay. Contohnya dia kata dekat Malaysia, taken the lead to implementing the guided self-regulation in our Malaysia MI. Dia bagi tahu nah untuk environmental management ni, dia ada implement GSR. Okay, as a government strategy to empower the industry to manage our environmental aspect using 7 environmental mainstream tools. Ni apa yang dia buat lah. Kita tak faham juga kan, tapi apa yang dia buat ni. Okay, that means benda ni more daripada transparency lah. Okay, dia bagi tahu so apa yang dia buat. So sekarang ni Saindabi dia guna GSR in Malaysia. Okay, dia ambil daripada 7 aspect. Okay, contohnya dia buat polisi, bajet, ada dia monitoring komiti dia, ada dari segi facility dia macam mana, okay, the competency dia, reporting, communication and transparency, ni apa yang dia buat lah. Okay, and then dia kata Urban operation adopted and implemented the 7 environmental mainstream tools, reporting dia environmental compliant. Dia kena compliant dengan environmental regulatory compliant monitoring committee. Dia kena compliant lah dengan badan-badan yang tertentu. Okay, ni maksud dia apa yang dia buat lah. Okay, and then maybe dia ada dapat CJ juga. Okay, ni contoh-contoh. Contohnya dekat Indonesia apa yang dia buat. dekat Indonesia macam mana. Tu semua contohnya water and waste. So, macam mana waste dia tu? Okey, ni contoh-contoh yang Saindabi nah. Okey, dia kata recorded 60% years of 1 year reduction in hazardous waste generation in Malaysia and 68% in Indonesia. So contohnya dia bagi tahu macam mana waste dia nah. Dia kata achieve 70% reduction of landfill from the previous year. Maksudnya dah reduce dah. Okey, nah. Okey, itu contohnya report-report yang dia kena ni lah, dia kena disclose dalam annual report. Ni contoh dia nah. Kalau you boleh tengok dekat mana-mana industri lagi ataupun mana-mana company yang more multinational company, maybe Proton tu boleh tengok juga, maybe ada dia punya environmental report nah. Ni contoh dia lah. Siapa dia tunjuk macam mana cara dia proses pun fire hazard nah, macam mana nah. So this the siap dengan the fire hotspot detection by the satellite pun ada lah. So overall. Okay, ni contohnya detail lah. This is the one of the contoh environmental report yang detail. Okay nah. Okay. Okay, dari segi percentage and so on lah. Okay. So, dah tengok the annual report tadi. Okay. So you boleh tengok lagi annual report daripada company mana-mana lah. You just search je annual report company besar-besar tu. So di dalam tu dia ada lah dia punya environmental accounting cost report lah. Tu tujuan dia untuk ni lah, untuk sustainability, untuk transparency. Supaya company tu ikut undang-undang, betul tak? Untuk bagi image yang baik kepada public. Okay. So, ada soalan tak? Ni contoh environmental cost. Okay, nanti next class nanti saya akan bagilah contoh-contoh soalan yang berkaitan dengan ni. And then satu case study. Alright, so ada soalan tak?
Doktor, kalau yang macam kes bayar lanas tu kan, salah siapa? Dia kira salah accountant ke salah company tu sendiri?
Kita accountant tak salah. Accountant buat report je. Pihak pengurusan lah biasanya. That mean masing-masing nak cut cost kan. So dia adalah buat atas bos lah, atas pihak pengurusan atas tu. The top management yang biasanya akan buat keputusan. Okay, contohnya accountant boleh bagi pendapat. Tapi sama ada reject or unrejected lah. Selalunya untuk kurangkan cost, contoh kilang-kilang yang keluarkan bahan kimia apa-apa kan daripada waste dia tu, dia buat proses barang. Waste dia tu akan melibatkan keluar bahan kimia kan. Dia tak nak dispose. Bila dispose akan melibatkan kos yang tinggi. So dia akan buang merata-rata je. Dia akan buang merata-rata nah. So that's why lah benda tu terjadi sekarang. Dia nak kurangkan kos. Kita accountant kalau kita bagi nasihat macam mana pun, okey, kalau pihak pengurusan tak ambil kira, tak boleh guna juga. Faham tak ni kan? Contohnya macam kami dulu lah, macam saya dulu, kita orang pernah dah, ni benda yang tak bagus jugalah. Kita orang pernah buang benda toksik tu di hutan. You faham? Nak dispose tu benda yang kos tinggi, nak dispose waste tu nah, bahan buangan. Nak dispose tu bukan senang kan, terutama kalau yang hazard. Okey. Jadi benda tu kita buang masa tu, kita tanam dekat hutan-hutan, belakang kilang. So ada orang report lah. So kena fine lah juga, kena denda lah juga. Lepas tu kita kena cari cara lain lah. Pernah juga hari tu, kilang tempat saya kerja tu, dia ada proses barang. So dia mengeluarkan asap yang warna hitam. Kilang pernah tak keluar asap warna hitam? So bila keluar asap warna hitam tu akan efek kepada penduduk setempat. So penduduk tu akan komplain lah. Komplain kan? So komplain, so jabatan ke mana-mana, Dayos ke NAOSH akan datang check and so on. Dia bagilah last warning and then kita pun carilah satu, it's not machine, cara proses lah kita upgrade the machine. That mean untuk tukar asap tu daripada hitam jadi putih. Tu je lah maksud tak efek sangat kepada environment. So it's not the kos yang sikit lah. Kos tinggi juga tu. Nak upgrade balik sistem lah. Bukan senang. Okay. Tapi selalunya kalau kilang-kilang, selalunya akan ada lah badan-badan NIOSH ataupun DOSH dia akan check. Dia akan check lah sama ada kita ni ikut standard ke tidak. macam mana cara buang bahan kimia tu. Tu selalunya dia akan check lah. Melainkan kilang-kilang yang tak ikut peraturan tu, dia buang secara senyap-senyap sebab dia tak nak incur kos yang tinggi, tu maksud dia tak bagus lah biasanya. Okay, yang banyak berlaku dekat dekat Johor kan. Kat mana lagi berlaku? Kalau Selangor kan, dia buang waste tu merata-rata, maksud dia tak nak incur cost untuk proses balik tu. Itulah. Dia tak fikir pasal persekitaran environmental, dia tak fikir. Sebab untuk protect the environment ni it's not easy lah, akan melibatkan kos yang tinggi. Biasanya kilang-kilang tak nak buat benda tu. Faham? So akan efek lah. Kan? Contoh berlaku dekat Johor yang Sungai King tu sampai sekarang tak solve the problem lagi kan. Tapi macam contohnya dia tak nak bagi pampasan kepada siapa yang efek, betul tak? Itu melibatkan benda lain pula lah. Ada isu-isu benda lain pula arise lah. Saya pun tak faham juga kes tu kan. Okay, sama juga dengan kilang-kilang yang berlaku dekat Pahang kan. So sepatutnya kalau kilang-kilang yang melibatkan, yang mengeluarkan benda-benda yang is not safe to the environment, dia kena buat satu tempat kawasan yang terpencil. Ataupun dia kena cari kaedah macam mana nak dispose benda tu. Okay. So tak boleh salahkan siapa-siapa, normally top management yang akan buat keputusan. Top management yang akan buat keputusan. Kalau kilang-kilang kecil-kecil tu biasa dia tak ikut peraturan sangat. Kalau kilang besar-besar ni, contohnya Petronas ke Saindabi, sebab dia nak jaga dia punya shareholder dia, nak jaga dia punya public interest dia atau human capital dia semua, dia akan buatlah benda tu. Tapi akan incur cost lah. Okay. Boleh tak? Okay?
Boleh madam. Madam, tadi madam kata madam nak bagi assignment, betul tak minggu ni?
Minggu depan.
Madam buat lepas
Case
masuk
study.
tahun baru tahun baru lepas pada tahun baru next week Jangan this week banyak nak buat.
Oh, you banyak kerja, tapi yang ni pun group assignment juga ni, the second group assignment.
Okay, baik.
Okay, so ada soalan tak? Kita dalam pihak pengurusan tak tahu nak salahkan siapa. Biasanya benda tu adalah decision making by the top management normally. Okay, so gitulah Okay, kita accountant normally boleh bagi pendapat, tapi tak semestinya pendapat kita ni diterima oleh top management. Okay, so ada soalan tak? Kalau tak ada soalan, ada group buat presentation kan?
Ada.
So kalau tak ada soalan, kita berhentilah setakat ni untuk environmental cost management. So kita bagi peluang kepada group yang akan buat presentation. Okay, so saya cari nama mana yang nama akan buat presentation ni. Okay. Ada nama Nurul Anissa kat sini. Nurul Anissa. Nama Nurul ke tak apa?
Nurul Anissa.
Okay, sekejap cari nama awak tak ada ni. Okay, ni Nurul Anissa ni. Okay, co-host. Lagi, Naizah Hidayah.
Ke atas.
Okay, Naizah Hidayah, co-host.
Aina Iwani.
Okay, Aina Iwani. Okay.
Jamila Huda.
Atirah sekejap, Atirah.
Nur Atirah. Atirah Fendi ke atas.
Oh, dia tak nama Atirah Fendi. Okay. Oh, ni Atirah Fendi. Okay, co-host. Nabila Huda.
Nisa.
Sekejap, depan Atirah Fendi. Tapi Nabila Huda. Okay, Huda ni kan? Nabila Huda. Okay, co-host. Auni Baris. Okey. Anun Nisa. Mana ni Anun Nisa? Nama awak apa kan? Noain Abdul Razak. Noain.
Ain Razak kat atas.
Oh, I see. Ain Razak ya. Okay. Ain Razak co-host. Okay, so you boleh share you punya ni lah. PowerPoint lah.
Okey.
Hmm.
Okey, jap.
So saya stop video saya dulu lah.
Okey.
Okay, dah boleh nampak. Saya dah nampak ke? Nampak tak orang lain?
Semua nampak tak?
Boleh.
Boleh.
Canggih ingat lah ni. Punya slide dia. You buat macam mana ni?
Dekat internet, madam.
Internet.
Ha.
Lepas tu kalau saya nak
Alright. Okey.
Dah boleh start ke madam?
internet saya slow nah.
Okey.
Jelas tak suara saya?
Macam mana kalau saya nak save ni? Ni apa ni? Saya nak save PowerPoint ni macam mana? Save gitu je ke? Ke tak nak save ni?
Dia kalau save dia sama ada dia dalam bentuk PDF ataupun video. Dia bukan dalam bentuk PowerPoint.
Klik. Boleh copy link macam tu?
Bagi link boleh kot.
Nanti saya cuba lah. Okay, present dulu lah.
Okay.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Jelas tak suara saya?
Jelas.
Jelas.
Okay, jelas.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening everyone. We are from Group 5 and today we will present about the topic Lean Management and Six Sigma. And before we start our presentation, first.
Tak dengar?
Dah. Next slide dah.
Okay.
Sini.
Okay, the first members is Auni binti Bari and the second members is Anunisa binti Rahmat and next is Nabila Huda binti Jazri, Nur Aina Iwani binti Abdul Jalil, Nur Aina binti Abdul Razak, Nur Izzahid binti Muhammad Razali, and the last one is Nisa binti Muhammad Islamid. So I will pass to Iza Idaya to start our group presentation today.
Alright, thank you Atira. First, I will start with the introduction of Lean Six Sigma, which is the combination of Lean Management and Six Sigma. Lean Management is a systematic approach to reduce or eliminate activities that don't add value to the process. It also emphasizes removing wasteful steps in a process and taking the only value added step. It will also ensure high quality and customer satisfaction. Meanwhile, Six Sigma means a data-driven problem-solving methodology. The focus is on the process variation and emphasis is given to customer satisfaction. Six Sigma is a continuous process improvement with low defect is the goal of this method. Lean Six Sigma is combine the strategies of Lean and Six Sigma, which help to improve the efficiency and quality of the process. Okay, next is Lean concept obtained its genesis from TPS, which is Toyota Production System. TPS model typically is well suited for high volume production environment. However, Lean finds its application in any environment where process waste are witnessed. Lean can be applied to manufacturing as well as service industry. It caused no doubt that Lean nowadays is being adopted by service sector with both arms. Process waste is identified in Lean methodology is known as MUDA. MUDA is a Japanese term of waste introduced by the Japanese engineer Taichi Ohno of Toyota in 1960. Using the Lean methodology, you can remove the below mentioned 8 type of waste, which is downtime is the acronym for the 8 waste. Alright, first is D, which stands for defect. Defect is the effort involved inspecting for and fixing error, mistake through rewards. Second is overproduction. Overproduction is producing more product or service that the customer needs or downstream process can use. And next is waiting. Waiting is idle time created when material, information, people, and or equipment is not ready. It includes high job setup in time manufacturing or excessively high data processing time in the service industry. N stands for non-utilized talent, which is non-adequately leveraging people's skills and creativity. Employee empowerment can counter these ways as advocated by Japanese quality pioneer. T stands for transportation, which is moving products, material, information, or people from one place to another without any value addition to final product or service. I stands for inventory, which means unnecessary or unwanted stocking of storage of information and others like work in process, work in queue. M stands for motion, which is unnecessary movement of people or machine that takes time and use energy. It may cause fatigue to workmen due to unwanted movement of a body. And the last one is E, which stands for extra processing. It is a process step that do not add value to the product or service, including doing work beyond a customer specification. Okay. Lean Six Sigma use the DMAIC phases, which similar to the Six Sigma. The 5 phases used in Lean Six Sigma aim to identify root cause of inefficiency and works with any process, product, or service that has a large amount of data or measurable characteristic available. The DMAIC toolkit of Lean Six Sigma comprise all the Lean and Six Sigma tools. Okay, let's check out. Okay, first is D, which stands for define the problem and the objective. In this stage, project objectives are outlined. Project charter is an important component of this phase. A project charter is a blueprint document for a Six Sigma project. A typical charter contains the following information, which are business case, problem statement, goal statement, project scopes, resources, timelines, and estimated benefit. Okay, next is M, which stands for measure. Process variable are measured at this stage. Process data is collected and the baseline is obtained and metrics are compared with final performance metric. The process capability is also obtained during this method. A stands for analyze, which is root cause analysis is done at this stage. Complex analysis tools are utilized to identify the root cause of a defect. Hypothesis tests are conducted to verify and validate root cause. For example, Wiss regression test, ANOVA test, or CHI test. Okay, I stands for identify and implement improvement. Once final root causes are identified, solutions need to be formed to improve the process. Steps to identify, test, and implement the solution to eliminate root cause are part of this stage. Simulation studies, design of experiment, prototyping, are some of the techniques used here to improve and maximize process performance. And the last one is C, which stands for control. After implementing the solution, the performance of the solution must be recorded. A control system must be in a place to monitor the performance post-improvement. And a response plan is developed to handle solution failure. Process standardization through control plans and work instruction is typically a part of this phase. A control chart shows the process performance. Project benefits are discussed and verified against estimated one. The main purpose of the phase is to ensure holding the gains. Okay, next, I will pass to Aina Iwani.
All right, thank you. I will continue with the presentation on the similarities of Lean and Six Sigma. The first one, both Lean and Six Sigma stress the fact that the customer defines the value of a product or service. This means that when processes are examined, the importance or necessity of steps in the process should be examined through the eyes of the customer. And also, Lean and Six Sigma utilize the process flow maps in order to better understand the flow of production and identify any waste. Furthermore, both rely on data to determine which areas of production need improvement in efficiency and to measure the success of improvements. And finally, as a result of implementing Lean and Six Sigma, efficiency typically improves and variation will decrease. Efficiency and reduction in variation go hand in hand with improvement in one, resulting in an improvement in the other. And next, I will about the differences of Lean and between Lean and Six Sigma is that the first one, the two methods is problem identification. For Lean, it focuses the problem of inefficiency around the 8 ways, while for the Six Sigma, it focuses on identifying sources of variation to reduce inefficiency. And another differences is that it uses different tools. For Lean, it uses more data visualization tools, and for Six Sigma, it uses more numerical and analytical focus tools. Next. Okay, Lean and Six Sigma also has their own benefits, which is first, increase in profit. As a result of eliminating waste and improving the quality of production, Lean Six Sigma reduces costs for organizations and increases profitability. And the second one, standardized and simplified processes. With the help of value stream mapping, Lean Six Sigma eliminates waste in processes and unnecessary steps to streamline production. The processes are simplified so that they are easier to follow and less likely to lead to error. The simplified processes will also reduce time, leading to a decrease in overhead costs. And the third one, decrease in error. With the simplification in process steps and a detailed investigation into the main causes of error and waste in the organization, Lean Six Sigma drastically reduces errors such as defects and miscalculations. And the fourth one, employee performance or development. Lean Six Sigma stresses the importance of the ideas and observances of individual employees to the overall success of an organization. With Lean Six Sigma, the feeling of self-importance and significance increases among employees and leads to an increase in motivation and better job performance. And last but not least, value to customer. Lean Six Sigma allows companies to improve their processes and the quality of their products. In turn, they are able to produce more products at a cheaper price with less error. Customer satisfaction will increase, which will then lead to an increase in customer loyalty. Next. These are the summary for Lean and Six Sigma introduction. But all right. And then the article that we are discussing about is
The first one, titled Six Sigma Enablers in Mexican Manufacturing Companies, a Proposed Model, written by 6 authors. And the journal title is Industrial Management and Data Systems, published in Emerald Group Publishing Limited. The publication date is on 11th March 2016. The purpose of the article is to extend the understanding of Six Sigma and the underlying dimensions of its critical success factors via an analysis of the effects of top management support, implementation strategy, and collaborative team on project performance in Mexican manufacturing companies. And I will pass this presentation to the next presenter, Auni. Thank you.
Hello. So I will talk about Article 2, which is investigating the readiness of people in manufacturing SMEs to embark on Lean Six Sigma projects. So there are 3 authors. So for the journal or publication for this article is International Journal of Operations and Production Management or Emerald Group Publishing Limited. So as you can see, this article was on 27th November 2015. Next. So this article actually to focus on 3 fundamental human-related behavior factors that are associated with Lean Six Sigma projects in German manufacturing small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, on the readiness of people like managers and their staff to commence LSS projects. So these are core personal competence, strategic vision of the people, and the organizational culture of the specific organization. So next, I will pass to Huda.
Okay, before continuing my part, everyone can hear my voice clearly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there are some issues and problems derived from Mexican manufacturing companies. The issue of insufficiency, the information, knowledge, and prior experiences in implementing the accounting techniques make the organizations derive into failure in operation. Okay, here are the problems faced by Mexican companies. Firstly is difficulty in analyzing critical success factor. So, what is critical success factor? It is a management term for an element that is necessary for an organization to achieve its mission. To achieve the goals, the managers need to be aware of each key success factor and the different roles key result area. Okay, secondly, inadequate project selection process and inability to align the project with critical organizational priorities. And lastly, lack of commitment by management on project track and reviews, project goal-based approach, and business strategy. So because of that, the purpose of this article, the article 1, the researchers want to explore and extend the study of Six Sigma in Mexican companies and investigate what underlies its critical success factors through analysis of the effect of top management support, development of a business strategy, and collaborative team on performing the project. Okay, next. Okay, the second article. The second article faced almost the same issue with Article 1, whereby German manufacturing sector faced lack of knowledge and confidence in developing accounting practices due to deficiency of detailed research on exploring the emerging theory of implementing Lean Six Sigma in small medium entities and in cooperation with human behavioral elements of organizations. So, based on this study, there are some additional notes stated. First, the scholar admits the implementation of Lean Six Sigma in big companies since 20 years ago. However, the evaluation of economy and business environment change. Even small medium entities compete with big companies. So, in order to cope with the changes, the managers of SME must take some action. Thus, before that, however, how far their management and employees' readiness to embark on Lean Six Sigma project? Thus, the study helps to provide and share the level of understanding and readiness of management, specifically in German manufacturing SMEs, to comments on Lean Six Sigma project. So, if you guys are interested to know if both article made the failure or success to achieve its objective, so stay with us and don't go anywhere. I will pass the presentation to the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, so for findings, Article 1, so the first one is shown that top management support has positive effects on implementation strategy, IS, and collaborative team, CT, due to Six Sigma. So second, project performance showed positive effect of implementation strategy on collaborative team. Third is project performance can reduce process variation, fewer defects, less scrap, lower warranty and liability costs, higher efficiency and productivity. Next. Okay, findings for Article 2. First is significant positive association between core personal competence of personnel and their readiness to embark on Lean Six Sigma. Second, significant positive association between organizational culture of personnel and their readiness to embark on Lean Six Sigma. And the last one, no significant correlation between strategy and operational vision of personnel with their readiness for embarking on Lean Six Sigma. So next presenter, Ain.
Next, I will explain about the implication in Article 1. This study analyzed the critical success factor of Six Sigma implementation in manufacturing firm in Mexico and found that critical success factors seem to group in three components, which are top management support, implementation strategy, and collaborative team. Firstly is top management support. Top management involvement and commitment is essential for success with Six Sigma and could drive a good Six Sigma project. In order to successfully implement Six Sigma program, management must understand Six Sigma methodology. Training is the first essential step in preparing for the implementation of Six Sigma methodology. A way to increase the quality of result in training and education could be through the involvement and commitment of top management, which promote proper project selection and provide the means for an adequate level of education and training of team members. Next is implementation strategy. Six Sigma has management component which is focused on identifying process metrics, setting goals, choosing project, and assigning people to work on this project. Implementation strategy for Six Sigma implies that projects are focused on the organization goals and the business strategy, and team members have project management skills and define strategy for monitoring and controlling projects. In order to increase the chance of successful Six Sigma implementation, a specific implementation strategy should be developed and project leader must have some basic project management skills. Lastly is collaborative team. Is characterized by members knowing and fully understanding the methodology, technique, and tools of Six Sigma with appropriate leadership and effective communication and team involvement. In Six Sigma project, the ability of team leaders to communicate openly and frequently with team members is essential to success. A communication plan is important in order to involve the personnel with the Six Sigma initiative by showing them how it works, how it is related to their job, and the benefit that can be obtained from it. Next, I will pass to next presenter.
Okay, before I proceed, I apologize if you hear some noises because there's a construction beside my house, so I apologize. Okay, for implications for Article 2. The first point, we have EC, emotional competence, and IC, intelligence competence. Educational enhancements plays the most significant role as an IC factor to promote working with statistics. The second one is vision of corporate identity, CI. Improvement of vision about CI and process improvement via educational enhancement is important. A quick fix expectation and inadequate long-term commitment towards CI as key individuals' vision will have a negative effect on organizations' willingness to implement LSS. The last one is core values. Core values such as honesty, justice, and truth are key people-related factors to be considered as the first stage of improving LSS in readiness. However, they have no greater importance than other cultural variables such as leadership when developing people's eagerness to work with statistics. Next.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me? No?
Kuat sikit.
Dengar tak? Dengar tak? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, I will present about suggestion about from both article. So, the first suggestion is a creation of community or forum to sustain progress of Lean and Six Sigma in an organization. In preserving the Lean and Six Sigma methodology, knowledge management plays a key role. Knowledge control measures play a crucial role in ensuring that Lean and Six Sigma practitioners benefit from the experience of each other and continually develop their ability with respect to the concept and
Hello, Ain?
Tak dengar.
Tak ada suara.
Ahli group boleh bantu.
okay,
Nak tolong ke?
tidak
Kalau ada problem ahli group lain boleh bantu nah.
Hello.
Okay, dengar.
Sorry. So my previous suggestion, you cannot hear my previous suggestion, right?
Kurang dengar.
Okay. So okay, so we proceed next suggestion, which is having continual communication to engage wider audience. There will never enough content in an organization. There should be multiple communication channels to receive and interpret information in such a way that the receiver can concentrate on it and act on it. An important aspect will be to provide open communication network in an enterprise to complete Lean and Six Sigma project on time. It is more convenient than mass email communication to address a small group on several occasions or to provide face-to-face contact for discussion of important items. So in reality, both companies from Article 1 and Article 2 may use local display with frequent update on job progress and visual summarize of potential plans or priorities to assist in enhancing employee engagement. So the last suggestion is having a right measurement system in place. So both companies from Article 1 and Article 2 need to acknowledge that it is just not possible to change something that can never be calculated. So they must learn from their previous mistake and take action. Practitioners may decide on baseline performance and use the data to make informed decision by having a proper measurement framework in place. And when individual realize the potential of Lean and Six Sigma plans can progress quickly in enabling employees to consider both tangible and intangible steps. The effect of their improvement can also be tracked and a database established to help the organization measure its performance. So that's all from me. I will proceed for the next presenter. Thank you.
Atira.
Sorry, tak buka mic. Okay. So to conclude the Article 1, the positive effect of Six Sigma implementation on project performance appear in the form of reduction of top management support is vital for Six Sigma, and a way to maintain and strengthen it is to encourage training of top management in Six Sigma so that it can see directly the methodology, tools, techniques, communication, needs for resources, and need for additional training to ensure the successful implementation of a small sample of their manufacturing companies and covering a wide range of manufacturing. A second limitation is concerned with a cross-sectional nature of the data. Although the paper presents some advantage, especially when measuring project performance of Six Sigma operating in different contexts, and the conclusion from that is human and behavior are highly important when in Six Sigma and manufacturing SME. Is the next slide. And it can be seen that it is necessary to enhance personal assistance and from any Lean Six Sigma program. And from both articles, it shows that cooperation within the organization is very important to ensure success in the implementation of Lean Six Sigma. Finally, it is imperative to highlight factors may increase the chance of company to obtain benefit from implementing Six Sigma. So there is additional reference. You guys can refer this link to further understanding. And I think that's all from us.
Okay, ada soalan? So any questions? Ada soalan tak daripada yang lain? Ada soalan?
Saya rasa tak ada kot, Doktor.
Tak ada kot. Tapi apa yang kita boleh conclude apa yang kita boleh conclude, kebanyakannya SMA practitioner ataupun strategic management accounting practitioner, tak kira lah Lean Sigma ke TQM ke apa lagi, target costing ke apa-apa lah yang kita buat selama ni more on kepada improve the productivity kan. Kebanyakannya lah, the purpose dia sama je, to improve the productivity, reduce waste, isn't it? Increase the quality and production, apa lagi? Nak reduce cost untuk sustainability. Kemudian kebanyakannya purpose dia sama je lah. Kan, tapi contohnya Lean Six Sigma tu yang artikel 1 tu, okay, apa model yang dia nak buat sebenarnya? Yang artikel 1 tu, what kind of model dia want to propose sebenarnya to LSS? Sebab kita tahu kan banyak problem yang arise bila nak propose a model ataupun untuk implement LSS, sebab contohnya data tak cukup, tak ada komitmen daripada top management ataupun all the subordinate kan. So dia bagi tahu tak what the model yang dia nak propose tu? Dalam artikel 1 tu ada tak dia orang bagi tahu? Sebab artikel 2 tu nak tengok the readiness saja among SME manufacturing kan. Dekat Jerman tu nak tengok readiness, maksud dia orang ready ke tidak kan. Tapi artikel 1 tu macam dia nak propose model, dia bagi tak model apa LSS dia. Dia nak baiki apa, dia tak dia orang mention.
Cuba buka balik slide tadi tu.
Saya terlepas pandang kot nah, maybe they have the model dah rasanya nah. Ada tak? Dia nak baiki sistem apa sebenarnya dalam tu? Dia guna LSS kan? Lean Six Sigma tu dia nak lah. That mean dia nak baiki what is the proposed model. Contohnya dekat hospital pun dia nak propose model apa kan? Ataupun dia nak tukar daripada model yang sedia ada tak dia bagi tahu dalam artikel awak tu. Yang ni just finding je. Ni a propose model tu nah. Tak dia kata propose model. Pak tajuk dia tu propose model tu. Tak tahu model apa. Model Six Sigma ke?
Six Sigma.
Dia nak propose model LSS ni. System Manufacturing Company.
Maksudnya dia nak adapt Six Sigma dalam Mexican manufacturing companies tu.
Tapi the finding dia dapat ke tidak?
Kalau tengok pada dia punya findings tadi,
fail or success?
Fail. Rasanya success sebab dia ada positif dalam dia punya hypothesis testing dia tu positif.
This one dia kata show that the top management has positive effect on implementation. Maksud dia baru nak implement. Rasa dia nak implement kan. And then dia kata apa yang nak implement tu dia dah ada dapat support daripada top management kan. And then dia kata dari segi IS dan CT pun dia ada improvement. That mean dia baru nak start implement the proposed model kan. Company dia kan. And then dia dapat support daripada top management. Dia kata model dia tu boleh reduce the process variation, fewer defect, less scrap tu lah. So model yang dia nak propose tu nanti dia akan reduce the process, the liability cost and so on lah. Kan? Ni baru nak implement lah. Baru nak propose model tu and then apa yang dia dapat then dia dapat support daripada top management and then model yang nak propose tu akan reduce the process variation, defect. Maksud dia dalam proses production itu proses tu akan decrease lah. And then defect pun berkurang. Tu maksud dia ni baru nak propose model sebenarnya artikel 1 tu. Okay, artikel 2 awak tu more kepada readiness. Maksud dia SME company tu dekat Jerman tu ready ke tidak untuk terima LSS tu. Betul tak? Betul tak kan? Tapi overall your conclusion and suggestion tu very good. Okay, sebab it's not easy it's not easy untuk implement satu-satu practices ni bukan senang. Sebab kita kena ada komitmen komitmen daripada management and employees, kena understand the method and technique kan. Tak semestinya kita nak boleh tukar benda-benda tu dalam masa yang singkat. Dia kena faham teknik and model dulu, framework macam mana kan. And then kena ada team involvement juga. Okay, mana-mana tak sekiranya list management or mana-mana practices lah, semua kena ada komitmen daripada management, top management dan juga employees. Nah, kalau top management saja bagi arahan, kalau employee tak ikut, dia tak jadi juga walaupun sebagus mana practices tu pun. Okay, so that means your artikel tahun bila 2000 yang dekat Jerman tu, SME kat Jerman tu? 2000 berapa artikel awak? 2000 berapa ni?
2015.
2015? Maybe kalau latest mungkin 2020 ni maybe dah ada dah kan SME dia orang guna lean management system lah. Dekat Malaysia rasanya tak sangat pun. Okay, sebab dia kena tukar the overall the system dalaman tu nah. Tapi benda tu bagus tapi kena tukar the system tu. It's not easy nah. Kalau company yang bagus-bagus tu dah ada dah buat. Okay. So maybe the step by step lah. Okay, so very good. So ada soalan lain tak?
Okay, Media saya nak tambah sikit. Yang pasal Lean Six Sigma ni, kalau based on reference yang group saya dah share dekat dalam Telegram tu, dia ada bagi satu analogi di mana contohlah ada satu lori yang bawa susu yang penuh dengan susu lah, produk susu. Dia nak hantar kepada satu kedai tapi sepatutnya lori tu dia akan sampai setiap minggu pukul 7.30 pagi. Kira macam contohlah hari Ahad tu dia mesti akan sampai, tapi bila berlaku macam ada mesin rosak ke ataupun dia punya pengangkutan dia ada masalah ke apa ke, so menyebabkan dia punya proses penghantaran produk tu kepada kepada seller lambat. Jadi pembeli kira macam customer, kalau kita sebagai customer takkan kita nak bayar kos yang lambat tu kan. So dekat situ lah dia punya difficulty dia untuk dia analyse satu-satu kos yang mana yang betul-betul dia boleh jadikan kos ni bagus, kos ni kena reduce, macam dia nak mengalami masalah dalam untuk analyse dia punya critical success factor dia tu, kat situlah berlakunya sama ada company tu dia nak adapt Lean Six Sigma tu atau tak. Okay, tu je.
Dan biasanya lah bila nak practice Lean Six Sigma dia akan relate juga dengan theory of constraint. Dia kena cari constraint tu macam mana nah. Tu maksud dia all the practices tu dia berkait-kait je sebenarnya. Okay, dia berkait-kait je nah. Tu lah pendekatan apa yang dia orang buat lah untuk practices. Okay, tak semestinya practices tu boleh digunakan untuk semua case nah. Tak semestinya lah. Okay, so depends. Okay, so very good information. You dah share dalam Telegram untuk group B?
Sudah.
Okay, so very good. Ada soalan lain tak? Kalau tak ada soalan, kita berhenti setakat ni lah. Okay, tu yang kita tengok dekat Mexican dan juga Jerman kan. Kalau tengok dekat negara lain pun ada juga. Okay, maybe kalau negara membangun tu dan well developed tu, maybe banyak dah yang very successful in implementing the Six Sigma. Okay. Ni maybe kalau dekat Mexico tu maybe tak membangun sangat kot tapi Jerman memang very good lah. Dia dah start dengan SME company dah. Okay dah, kita tengok dekat SME company dah. Maybe yang company yang the big company tu maybe dah implement Six Sigma tu. Okay, so dia cuba nak tengok readiness dekat SME company. Maksud dia SME company tu willing or not to use the Lean Six Sigma dekat company dia kan. Tu kalau yang Mexicans tu dia maybe the tahap pembangunan tu compared to Jerman tu jauh beza sikit lah. Alright, so kalau tak ada soalan, so we end our class. Boleh? Kita boleh berhenti sekat ni tak?
Boleh, Doktor.
Okay, so see you next class nah. Okay, Assalamualaikum.